Hello and welcome to Fatboss Weekly Season 2, Episode 50.
Hello.
And for the people who don't know, Fatboss Weekly is mine and Alex's weekly news show where we talk about WoW news as well as any other gaming news that we find interesting. And on today's show,
a lot of stuff's happened.
We're talking about a lot of stuff. Over the past week, there's been various different interviews with Blizzard developers about Warlords of Draenor, and there's a lot of new insight and information about the game that has been sort of confirmed. But before we get into that, this weekend just gone, PAX East happened in Boston in the US.
Yep.
And something interesting was happening there.
Yeah, what Blizzard were doing, they were handing out beta keys to those who were waiting in line to play the Warlords of Draenor demo at PAX itself. So they were just kind of like, oh, here you go, come to the closed beta, anyone? Which is a little bit weird, really.
And the people who did actually receive the codes were actually able to access the current alpha.
Yeah, when they went home and put it into BattleNet, some of them were able to access the current alpha, and Blizzard were like, you're not supposed to do that. So yeah, they fixed all it up, and people don't have access to that.
People don't have access to it anymore. It was an accident, and Blizzard have solved that problem. But it seems a little bit interesting that Blizzard are giving out keys already for the beta, considering the beta isn't even live just yet. But usually the beta is, I mean, how the beta usually works traditionally with WoW is that it's like the close friends and family one, and then they'll start sending invites out to media outlets or other players and whatnot. But it looks like they're going to be doing it slightly differently, inviting all these players so early. I mean, it's not going to be a horrendous amount of players,
of course not.
But you can already buy these keys on eBay. People are just throwing them up on eBay for extortionate prices. I think I saw one for like $350 or something crazy. No doubt someone will buy it.
I've got to get the checkbook out, Lawrence. Got to make them videos.
Well, we don't have a key. But anyone who did go to PAX East and wants to give us a key, me and Alex would be more than happy.
We'll rip your bloody arms off. But overall, I think it's really interesting how they're doing this. It's completely different from what they've done otherwise. Like, of course, last year was a bit of a, like, everyone gets in if you've done the annual pass. But of course, this year they're not doing the annual pass, so it's going to be a little bit different. The fact that they're inviting so many people early, that kind of just, like, not normally, like, you get those many people in early. So it's going to be really weird. I'm really interested to see how the whole invite process is going to go out.
Anyway, moving away from that, so there was 2 interviews this week with Blizzard devs, with Convert to Raid and BlizzPro, with Celestron, Zahim, Halinka, Chris Zierhut, and Steve Burke.
Yep.
Links to these interviews are in the description, but me and Alex are going to go over some of the key points that we picked up over the interviews, and we're going to discuss them with you guys. So they did actually, sort of like continuing from our previous subject, they did talk about the alpha and the beta. So they did say that the expansion has been internal alpha for quite a while now. How long that is, we're not sure, but
yeah,
you know, they've been discussing patch notes and whatnot for going on almost a month now. So it's probably been around for, like, internally quite a long time. And they went on to give some information about how people can actually get into the beta. They said that the current alpha is an employee take-home alpha. It will remain alpha when friends and family are invited, as well as when a small amount of players are invited. Please invite me, Blizz.
Can't do that for the whole episode.
Please invite me, Blizz.
Oh my god.
And they said after that, some opt-in players will be invited, and it will then become beta.
Yeah.
So if you go on your BattleNet now, you can actually opt in for the beta. I'm sure most of you guys have already done it or know how you do it. Just log into your BattleNet account, go on your main page, and you'll be able to
the beta.
Yeah, you can choose what beta profiles you want to set up.
You just pretty much tick all of them.
Yeah, I didn't actually. I only ticked WoW.
Oh really?
I haven't ticked any of the other ones.
Oh, I tick all of them. I kind of play all Blizzard games though. But they did say that the ramp up of invites will actually be slower than Mr. Pandaria beta, as that's a whole new file system to test. So,
which is understandable, really.
Yeah, because they don't want to send it out to 1 trillion people or whatever, and then they're all just like, oh, it doesn't work, Blizzard. So, like,
yeah,
they just want to make sure that, like, they actually get the file system working.
And they did say that the Warlords of Draenor beta will have a limited number of people invited compared to Mr. Pandaria beta. There is no annual pass this time, so Blizzard isn't obligated to invite more than 1 million players as fast as possible.
Yeah. Like last year.
So essentially the beta is going to be far more exclusive. And they did say that the alpha patch notes that are on the EU site now, they've only been on the EU site for about 24 hours now. Well, they've been on the US site for almost 2 weeks.
Yeah, it's a bit weird.
I'm not sure what that's about. They said that the patch notes were delayed in order not to step on D3 and Hearthstone news. And they said that the alpha builds that are being produced are also somewhat unstable.
Yeah, because there was a lot of stuff going on in that month. Like, I remember, like, when we was doing FatBoss Week a couple of weeks ago, it's like, what is Blizzard? Blizzard are just going crazy. There's so much stuff. Hearthstone's released, D3 expansion's released.
And then now Hearthstone's on iPad as well.
Yeah, so it's just loads of crap going on.
So I don't think they want to release too much information in one go, because otherwise everyone's head's just going to blow up.
Exactly.
Or at least that's what they assume.
So that's good though, very good.
Now in the interviews they also did touch on healing, and I was supposed to talk about the healing changes that were originally made in the water cooler post.
Yes, you were, Lawrence.
But I never got around to make. Well, I did actually make the video, and I rendered it, and I wasn't happy with it because the amount of information available was like, well, they could be doing this, they could be doing that, they could be doing this, and it was like, this video is so like contradicting itself.
Yeah.
And there were so many different possibilities, and it was like, fuck it. I'm not doing the video, I'm going to wait until the beta or wait until there's more healing information. And they have given us more healing information. In the dev water cooler post, they didn't really talk about healer's mana that much. All they said is that the amount of regen you have is going to scale nowhere near as much as it did in Mr. Pandaria. So if you're in Mogashan Vaults, you're going to go as fuck, whereas in Siege of Orgrimmar, you just have endless amounts of mana and it doesn't fucking matter. This is what they're changing. They're making it so it's far more streamlined, and they're doing that by increasing the base. They're increasing the base regen. So what they said is that the healer's mana regeneration abilities are being nerfed and removed because they didn't add any gameplay value. So they're essentially removing Innovate, Divine Plea, potentially Mana Tide Totem, and Divine Hymn.
That kind of stuff,
That sort of shit. And I kind of agree with that change. I think that is a good change because those buttons aren't really skill-based or anything like that. It's like you've run out of mana, hit the button.
Yeah.
Which is like a shit way of getting your mana back. There's far more interesting ways you can do it. But the way that they're doing it is just by increasing your mana regeneration and your mana costs. They were just balanced to sort of compensate for it. But they did say active mana regeneration mechanics are still being considered. So they might bring in a new version of Innovate. Maybe you need to heal so many different targets or something, and then
maybe you got to have like loads of hots up or something.
Yeah, they'll probably make it so your healing has to be smarter in order for you to get your mana back, rather than you hit one button. It's like, yeah, GG, here's my mana. They also talked about some of the defensive cooldowns that are just being sort of like overused to shit in like 25-man raiding and stuff. They said that all the challenging parts of the fights in Mr. Pandaria were handled by having DPS use defensive cooldowns. Healing should be the healer's job, so that the team wants to tone down the amount of stackable raid utility that DPS and tanks bring, so that healers are there to handle the challenging to heal moments, which I really, really like. If you are like, I don't know, let's say you're on Garrosh and 25-man heroic, every single swell it's just like AFK, use aura mastery, you know, you
have something for every single one.
Exactly, you can just make it so trivial. You know, and they said that having a DPS use Healing Tide or Tranquility to heal the raid doesn't feel good for the healers. And as a healer, I totally agree. You shouldn't have to, it's not relying on them, but when they do use it, it's just like, oh, for fuck's sake. I wanted to heal. You're there to damage, I'm here to heal, so it's good that
you should just start doing Wrath at that point, Loz.
Yeah, well, exactly. It's like, well, okay, you just popped your Healing Tide. I'm going to start Lightning Bolting. Fuck it. I've got nothing else to do. So continuing the mana efficiency stuff, they said that caring about efficiency of a spell or minimising overhealing can be done without making healers run out of mana all the time. For example, baseline mana regeneration is going to be significantly increased so that you have decent heals that you can just cast with that base regen. This means that essentially if you're naked, you can cast effective heals.
Yeah, so...
which makes me worry, because this may indicate that you're going to have infinite mana.
Yeah, of course. Well, you do have more inefficient spells like Flash of Light in comparison to Holy Light and stuff like that.
Yeah,
so
that was actually an example they gave.
Oh, right. So, yeah, you can't just spam that.
Yeah.
You can't just keep pushing that button like low, infinite mana. But they did say that maybe you could, constantly use Holy Light without running out.
Yeah, and they said, obviously when you do have gear and you are in the last tier, they said you will be able to start getting closer towards spamming the more inefficient heals.
Yeah. That's kind of how it is now as well, isn't it? To an extent.
To an extent, but right now it's more of a joke than perhaps they're trying to display it here.
Yeah.
If they make it so the healing isn't challenging in the first tier, because they're trying to balance it, and they want to be on the safe side and say, well, we don't want to make the damage too high because, you know, we've just changed healing, and we want it to be safe for everyone. And this is going to be terrible, because, being full mana all the time, casting your efficient spells, and everyone's on full health or whatever, is going to be so boring.
I imagine that they might design a fight that kind of helps you learn your healing a little bit. I imagine that would be a good thing. So
potentially.
Because we're not actually sure on the specifics, of how the active mana regen is going to work, but maybe there'll be a fight where it kind of promotes you to do that. So maybe there will be a couple of fights that are a bit cheesy, just so healers kind of get in the Warlords of Drain or healing. Maybe it'll be like the first Babby boss in each instance, which are a joke anyway. So it doesn't matter if that's kind of anything.
Well, it'll be interesting to see either way, but their emphasis was that mana will scale less over the course of the expansion than it did before.
Yeah.
Which means when you do get to those later instances, you can start using your inefficient heals far more than you did right at the start of the expansion, but it won't be nowhere near as bad as what it is now. But let's hope they don't fuck it up completely and you're just full mana the entire time, because that is something they can quite easily do right now. Especially with them stating that your base regen is enough for you to spam your efficient heals. Like, that's just crazy.
Yeah, so as I said, we really have to see what happens on the beta. Now, they did actually cover some stuff on questing. Now, we did talk about questing beforehand in the BlizzCon videos that we did. We did talk about it quite a lot.
Old now,
yeah, so it's quite a long time ago, so we thought we'd come back to it a little bit. And what they said is, in Warlords of Draenor, your map will show you where to go to continue the main storyline, along with the locations of the bonus objectives. So we did actually know that beforehand.
Yeah.
So there would be, like...
There was actually a couple of screenshots.
Yeah, so there'll be the main route, and there'll be, like, little exclamation marks here and there. Like, you kind of get that, like, in the Valley of the Four Winds, if you want to go do Helmet's, like, Hessingway's Safari Adventure Fun Time, or whatever the fuck it is. So yeah, like that, I imagine it'll be similar to the way that works, but it'll also give you an idea of where the fuck to go. So the bonus objectives no longer have any story text to go with them, just a list of objectives. Now, when there is quest text, you will know it's actually worth the reading.
So basically, main storyline, that's going to have your quest text. That's where you're going to learn all the lore-y shit. Whereas the bonus objectives, go collect 10 bear asses, that's going to have no quest text. I like that.
I do as well, I guess. Yeah, I think it's very good for, like, I guess the majority of players, because...
I think some players might see this as Blizzard almost being lazy, but I don't think there is a massive player base that reads the stupid quests.
Yeah.
Which are like, oh, you found me, I'm in the woods, and I'm some random NPC you never heard of before.
But it does...
I'm not remotely important. Go get 10 arrows for me, so I can be even less important.
What kind of, yeah, but it does flesh out the world maybe a little bit. People can read it and they'll see, oh look, even this person's affected, and they might have this evil person or something. I don't know. It's maybe it does help flesh out the world a little bit, but to be honest, it doesn't make a fucking blind bit of difference to me. Cause
no, me neither.
So I imagine
it might hurt some people. So I don't know.
Yeah, but I think this is a good change, really, because I do give a little bit of a shit about what goes on in WoW, like in the lore sort of thing. So I kind of like to know, but like I never really cared because most of the quest text was like, oh yeah, I'm really important. So I think it is a good thing that it will have like, this is actually important shit. You might want to listen to this if you want, but otherwise you can just YOLO through it. So either way, very good changes. I like it. And
there was a couple of suggestions towards BlizzCon 2014 coming.
All right.
They said that BlizzCon 2014 is something that everyone would really love to do. If there is any more information, it will be shared at some point in the near future.
Oh, well, fair
And we
enough.
actually talked about BlizzCon potentially happened, I think it was 3 episodes ago, something like that, where they actually changed the webpage.
Yeah, they changed the webpage.
And then there was like, oh shit, and then they turned it off so you couldn't actually access it. But yeah, that's what they said about BlizzCon. They also said that there'll be some blog posts on professions at some point. It'll probably be similar to the Dev Watercooler post.
I'd be very interested in that because there is a lot of big changes going on. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to it.
As well as the garrisons, but the garrisons themselves are going to have 4 blog posts. So there's going to be a lot of information about the garrisons coming up. With the first one, which is going to be some sort of overview within the next few weeks, apparently. Another blog post will talk about how to interact with your garrisons as you level and at level 100 as well.
That'll be really interesting.
So that's going to be interesting to see.
And they did say that more information is coming, as the notes that went up on both the EU and US sites were originally slightly dated. So significantly more information has been added to the notes since then. So there'll be more and more stuff.
So it's all a bit messy. So I think they just want to make it a little bit more clean, a little bit more obvious.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So Lawrence, with all this new amazing stuff coming out in Warlords of Draenor, like the new models and fancy skies and all that kind of shit, I think my computer might blow up, says half of pretty much everyone who plays WoW.
There has been a lot of people asking questions on the WoW forums or sending various tweets to devs saying, my computer isn't good enough.
Yeah.
And Blizzard have actually responded. Tapesalem, who's a blue, on the WoW forums replied to someone saying, I'd say that you shouldn't be worried about any big drop in performance. Things will most likely remain very close to what you experience right now. So if you're satisfied with what you have right now, then there shouldn't be need to change anything.
He also went on to say that more importantly, we are reducing the amount of visual clutter that currently fills every fight where a lot of players are involved. So that basically there's less sparkly stuff flying around, means better video performance for everyone. Because yeah, I must admit, like especially if you've ever been a melee DPS in a 25-man guild, it's a bit, you don't even know if you're hitting the boss from the right angle sometimes, if there's enough spell effects. It's just like, what the fuck's going on? You got to see if you're parrying or not. So yeah, I think that's a very good change to make everything a little bit less sparkly.
And so it does look like Warlords of Draenor is going to be in similar, especially with the new game files and everything, is going to be similar to Mr. Pandaria. At least that's what their plan is. However, with the new character models, apparently some people could take an FPS hit. However, what they have decided to do is make it so you can actually go back to the old models.
Yeah, there was a option, like I remember we saw in the very, very first footage. You remember all the way back when it's from the Korean site, and it was just to do with it was just showing off options and stuff like that, and just like some random guy running around for about like 50 minutes doing pretty much fuck all. But his he did go in the options menu, and there was like toggle old character models, which is quite interesting. So maybe you will be able to turn them off and on.
And what Tapesim said on the WoW forums was, the new models are central to gameplay. Every nuance in the detail, movement, pose and facial expressions will be noticed by you, even unconsciously, because your character's always standing in front of you. But of course, we want to keep the game playable for everyone. So if you're in the situation where your game isn't playable at all with the new models, then it's still better to disable them than not being able to play them at all.
Yeah,
so there we go.
Now moving on to the part of the show, we look at our mail.
You guys know how it works. Send in your questions, your pictures, all that sort of shit to us on Facebook, Twitter or on Twitch. Links are in the description. And there's a chance you can be featured in next week's show.
And of course, we always like to start off with some real shit art. And this person has brought in some crazy shit. Coltan on Twitch, or Colthan. Allowed to say it out, very, very sorry. And he says, hey Alex and Loz, long time no see. I've got some art for you since you had an awesome idea about glaive toss sending out rabbits, remember last week?
Yeah.
So he drew an amazing picture.
That picture is terrible.
It's wonderful. I don't know, man. I'm going to put that up on the fridge. Like,
I'm going to put it in the fridge that's precariously hung very close next to the bin. And then every time I go past the fridge, I'm just going to elbow the fridge.
What? And just hope the paper falls in the... Oh, that's just mean. I love the picture. Thank you very much, Colton. Jeez.
And next we have a question from Vandamonia on Twitch, who says, I was wondering what your thoughts are on the secondary stats on Warlords of Draenor. The way I'm currently looking at these is that some of these stats are going to be compulsory for Mythic raiding. Life Leech will be a good stat to help your healers as a melee DPS, movement speed will also be good. I'm thinking that Mythic guilds will turn down players due to the fact that they do not have the right secondary stats on their gear, meaning that players will have to keep farming the same piece of loot until they roll the same stat. By the way, Alex, I was in Serpent Shrine Caverns the other day, and I didn't see a corrupted core. Where can I get one?
Well, fuck you to start off, to be honest. Corrupted core, tainted core, it's basically the same thing. But either way, I really think that these stats, they're not even really secondary stats. They're like one lower than that, if you ask me. But like with the life steal and like the cleave and stuff like that, I really don't think
the cleave actually removed.
Oh, did they?
Yeah.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Well, either way, you know, I don't think it's going to be a massive, massive, massive deal, to be honest. I think they're going to be cool little things to have. And of course it will be nice, but I don't see guilds turning players away because, oh, all DPS, all melee DPS need to have 10% movement speed, otherwise you're useless. Or,
yeah,
I can't really see them making that much of a big impact in the raiding scene.
I think they're just going to be made to make your gear a little bit more interesting.
Yeah.
I can't see lifesteal being a core factor to kill a boss. Especially considering what they just said about healers in recent interviews. They want healers to fucking heal. They're not going to make lifesteal that strong, and if they do, it was a mistake.
Yeah, and they'll nerf it.
Yeah. So I don't think it's going to be compulsory, and I don't think Mythic guilds will turn down people unless they're so insanely overpowered, but I really cannot see that happening.
Yeah, because maybe it will turn, like, I don't think this is going to happen, but there is a possibility that, say, it will be like, oh, you need to have the 5% lifesteal and the 10% movement speed and I don't know, blah, 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 blah. You need to have these stats before you can even join, because you can't even do this boss correctly on Mythic mode without having those stats. Maybe it will be like that. I don't think it will. There's a possibility. So,
sure.
To be honest, overall, I really think it's nothing much to worry about. They seem more like little fun extra stats rather than a core part of your gameplay and how you play your class. So I don't think there's much to worry about, to be honest. Thank you very much for the question, Vendamonia. And the next one comes in from Tirafun on Facebook, who says, hey there, FatBoss, Tirafun here. This is the first time I do this, so I hope I do it right. I hope you do it right as well, because you're in front of everyone now. It's too late. So let's see what happens. First off, I want to say I love your guides and watch your weekly show every week. Very nice job. I have two questions, and I hope you can help me. First, I'm a raid leader in my guild, and we're sort of progressing. We have this healer that simply isn't healing enough, and it is making us wipe. Though I find it hard to kick the person, it would also mean that we would miss a healer. That leads to my other question. Because this raid isn't the main raid team in our guild, and our GM has locked invite for people who I'd like to join, which means that we're going to have a hard time finding people. which is that's pretty much what it said. So I hope you understand my questions and can answer them. So the idea is that he's in a guild, like he's at the second main raid, like he said the second raid. He's made a second raid team within a guild, but he can't invite players to join his second main raid, and there's some people he wants to replace. For me, why are you even in that guild?
Yeah. Exactly.
Like, if you can't invite and change your roster because the GM is annoyed with you inviting so many people, say fuck you and go make your own guild with your own set of players. I don't see what the problem is.
Second raid teams never work.
Generally not, no.
If there's a really fucking amazing mage in the second raid team, and the main raid team, their mage just, like, quits the game, then you'll lose your mage.
Yeah, it's highly likely that.
So what's the point even trying to progress or get better players when the main team is either going to steal them, or people are always going to try and join the main team or somewhere else?
Yeah, so it's probably better just to make your own guild on your own merits. So people don't, like, because I remember we've once had it before where we had it so there was a second raid team that was completely unrelated, but all people were doing was trying to, like, leapfrog into the main raid team. They'd only go to the second raid so they can try and go to the main raid. It just doesn't work. You should always just try and make your own guild on your own merits and progress by yourself, so at least you can fucking invite the players to join the guild to go to the raids.
Yeah.
And with the person that's making you, like, who isn't healing enough and it's making you wipe, really you should, like, well, first off, talk to them and make sure that they are aware that they are causing the problem, and you got to, well, however you want to do that.
Yeah. So essentially, let me just jump in here.
Yeah.
Fix the problem with this one healer dude.
Yeah.
If you can't fix the problem with him, obviously you can't recruit anyone to leave the guild, or leave the guild anyway and make your own guild.
Yeah.
That's what I would do. I would immediately leave and just make my own guild, if that was the case. And the healer guy, try and help him out, try and get him to improve. If he's not willing, or he can't, or she can't, or whatever, then yeah.
You have to find a new player.
Have to find a new player. But yeah, ultimately you shouldn't... The guilds within guilds don't work.
No.
Because that's essentially what happens with two raid teams. But thanks a lot, Terraphone, for the question, and good luck.
So that's all we got time for this week. Thank you very much for watching. If you do want to be featured in next week's show in the mailbox, then make sure you do send in your mail to either Facebook, Twitter, or on Twitch. All the links are in the descriptions below, as long as with everything else that we've been talking about today, all the interviews and all that kind of good stuff. And of course, we will see you next time.
Thanks for watching.
Thank you.